curse your own self. He wants you to speak negative things about your own future. That's why it's bad for parents to speak negative things over their children. When you say to your son, you ain't nothing, you ain't gonna be nothing, your daddy wasn't nothing, and you just like your daddy. When you begin to speak that, you're actually speaking words. Words have life. Words have power. And even though sometimes you may not see the manifestation of that, often down the road, you begin to see that son take on the characteristics of those words. When he begins to fail, he makes excuse for his failure by saying, they told me I wasn't going to be anything. So I'm not surprised by my failure, because he begins to take on the shape of those words. Isn't it wonderful that even on tomorrow, young children and different ones will be in parades celebrating Martin Luther King's birthday. And the other day they had speeches, and now we live in a day and time where young little black boys and little black girls dare to dream of being president of these United States, because now they see that it is possible. Used to, their vision was, in order to get out of poverty, you've got to be a professional athlete. In order to get out of poverty, you got to get into music. You got to do this, you got to do that. Because the television and the radio did not personify those persons who were successful doctors. It did not portray those persons who were successful educators, who were successful lawyers. The only time you really saw them was when they were in trouble. You saw the doctor who overprescribed medicine. You saw the lawyer who did things illegal. You saw those persons who got caught. You didn't see the persons who were successful. Somehow they didn't want you to see them, but they took them and put them in boardrooms and hid them because they wanted to celebrate that individual's success. But they didn't want you to know, because they wanted to hold you captive to your time and your season, so that when your season of progress would come, you would totally miss it. Can I tell you that the enemy has enacted violence against you as a race of people? He has enacted violence against your success. He has enacted violence against your children. He has enacted violence against you, sometimes even against our physical bodies. There is the idea that certain things are hereditary, that most blacks will be susceptible to high blood pressure and congestive heart failure because of certain diets and certain lifestyles. But you got to understand, some of that, it certainly is lifestyle, but some of that is things we have spoken on ourselves. Listen, I know how you were born, and I know who you were born to, and I know your color, and I know your nationality. But when you're born again, when you're regenerated, there are some things that are supposed to change. I know who my daddy is. My dad is Tommy Ray Clerkley. I know who my mama is. My mama is Helen Gladys Boyd Clerkley. But I am a king's kid. I have been born again. I have been regenerated. There are some things that I just don't have to do because my daddy did. There's some things I just don't have to do because my uncle did. There's some things I just don't have to do because I have been born again. And when I was born again, I got a new mind. I got a new attitude. I got a new desire. I got a new disposition. I got a new understanding of my purpose in life. And one of the things I've got to do in understanding my purpose is set up a warfare against this enemy. Because God don't make no junk. And God didn't save me just because he didn't have nothing else to do. God didn't save me just so I would not go to hell. It's a wonderful thing to be saved and not go to hell. But there are other purposes in my life. And my job is to find my purpose and fulfill the destiny. Can I tell somebody here that if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then it will go undone? I know sometimes we say, if you don't sing your song, somebody else will sing it. If you don't write your poem, somebody else will write it. But can I tell you that there are some things that God has ordained for you and for you only? And that's why the devil has raised so much hell against you, because he does not want you to fulfill your destiny, and he does not want you to fulfill your purpose. The Bible lets us know in the book of Ecclesiastes there is a time and a season for all things. You got to know that there is a season that the devil is loosed on your life, and he's permitted to come and to raise hell in your life. He's permitted to come and to come against your children. He's permitted to come and come against your finance. But you got to understand, it's in the Bible. There is a time and a season. As a matter of fact, it said there's a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silent, a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time of war. Is what the Bible said, that there is a time of war, and you got to understand when it's wartime, it's because that's a season that God has appointed. And when God appoints a season, ain't no sense in you putting away your swords and beating your swords in the plowshares, because when it's wartime, it's time to fight. And you got to understand that God has ordained war, and God has ordained certain weapons of war, but you just got to know that the weapons of our warfare, they are not carnal, but they are mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations. That God has equipped us to be ready for the enemy. He told us to put on the whole arm of God, that we will be able to withstand in the evil day, and then having done all to do to stand, we will stand therefore having our loins girt about with truth. You've got to understand that truth, the girdle of truth, is not on the outside, but the girdle of truth is on the inside, because everything you stand on hinges on the truth. And the truth is that you're more